In the dusty heart of 19th-century New Orleans, where the Mississippi River whispered secrets of freedom and chains, a young woman named Eliza Hawthorne stood at the edge of a crowded auction block. The sun beat down mercilessly on the assembled throng, merchants in fine coats, farmers with calloused hands, and curious onlookers drawn by the spectacle of human misery. Eliza's heart pounded as the auctioneer's gavel cracked like thunder, signaling the start of another sale. But it wasn't the gleaming silverware or bales of cotton that caught her eye, it was the man shackled at the center of the platform, his broad shoulders slumped under the weight of iron chains, his dark eyes burning with a defiance that no whip could extinguish. They called him Salvaje, a runaway slave from the wilds of the bayou, captured after a desperate bid for liberty. As the bidding began, Eliza felt an inexplicable pull, as if fate itself had tethered her to this stranger's story. Eliza had come to the market that morning with no intention of buying anything more than fabric for her seamstress shop. At 25, she was a widow, her husband lost to the fever 2 years prior, leaving her to fend for herself in a world that viewed independent women with suspicion. She had built a modest lathe stitching dresses for the city's elite, her needle weaving threads of quiet resilience. But as she watched the man, tall, with skin like polished mahogany and scars etching tales of brutality across his back, she saw not a beast, as the auctioneer proclaimed, but a soul battered yet unbroken. "This one's a fighter, folks. Called him skulking in the swamps, probably plotting to slit throats in the night. Start the bid at $50. The crowd murmured, some laughing, others shifting uncomfortably. Eliza's hands trembled at her sides. She had heard stories of such men, labeled savages for daring to dream of freedom, but in his gaze, she glimpsed something familiar. The heroic of loss, the fire of unyielding hope. The bids trickled in slowly at first, from planters seeking cheap labor to break on their fields. 60, shouted a burly man with a tobacco-stained beard. 75, countered another, eyeing the prisoner's muscular frame. Eliza's mind raced. She had saved a small fortune from her sewing, enough to perhaps expand her shop or secure a better home. Buying a slave went against everything she believed. Her late husband, a quiet abolitionist at heart, had whispered to her of underground railroads and the moral rot of ownership. Yet here, in this moment, she couldn't turn away. Whispers spread through the crowd, he's dangerous, at one. Kill the overseer, they say. Lies or truth, it didn't matter, the auctioneer's hammer was poised to fall, sealing the man's fate to a life of torment or worse. As the price climbed to $100, an unexpected bidder emerged. A notorious overseer named Harlan Crow, known for his cruelty on the sugar plantations upriver. His voice boomed like a cannon, 150. Tame this savage, or break him trying. The crowd gasped, sensing the violence in his words. Eliza's stomach twisted. She had crossed paths with Crow once, when he commissioned a shirt from her shop, his eyes lingering too long, his comments laced with disdain for uppity women. Now, he grinned wolfishly at the prisoner, who lifted his head for the first time, meeting Crow's stare with unflinching intensity. In that exchange, Eliza saw not savagery, but a man who had endured hell and still stood tall. A profound realization washed over her, this wasn't just about one life, it was about the chain of humanity that bound them all. If she walked away, she would carry the guilt like a shroud. The auctioneer called for final bids, his voice eager. Going once, going twice. Eliza's heart thundered. She stepped forward, her voice cutting through the humid air like a blade. Don't hurt him. By him, $200. The crowd fell silent, then erupted in murmurs. Who was this slip of a woman, outbidding the mighty Harlan Crow? Crow Beerleaf, his face reddening. You. What does a seamstress want with a brood like that? Slit your throat in your sleep. Eliza held her ground, her chin lifted. Call him, Salvaje, all you want. Is he a man worth saving? The words hung in the air, a declaration that shifted the atmosphere. The auctioneer's gavel fell, sealing the deal. As the chains were transferred to her custody, Eliza met the man's eyes again. His name, she would later learn, was Elijah, not Savage, a name stolen from him long ago. Leading Elijah back to her small home above the shop, Eliza felt the weight of her impulsiveness. The streets buzzed with gossip, neighbors peered from windows, whispering about the widow and her dangerous purchase. Elijah walked in silence, his chains clinking softly, his posture wary. Once inside, Eliza unlocked the irons with trembling hands. "You're free here," she said, her voice soft but firm. "No more chains. But if you run, I won't stop you." Elijah rubbed his wrists, staring at her with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. "Why?" he asked, his voice deep and resonant, laced with the cadence of the bayou. "You don't know me." Eliza paused, thinking of her husband's final words, "Kindness is the only chain that binds without breaking." She replied, "Because everyone deserves a chance to be seen, not just labeled." In the days that followed, an uneasy alliance formed. Elijah, it turned out, was no savage, he was a skilled carpenter, taught by his father before the slavers came. He had fled a plantation after witnessing his sister's brutal beating, killing the overseer in a fit of protective rage. Hunted like an animal, he survived in the swamps, forging tools from scraps and dreaming of a life beyond the horizon. Elisa offered him shelter in exchange for help around the shop, repairing shelves, building display cases. At first, he kept his distance, his trust eroded by years of betrayal. But small acts of kindness bridged the gap, a shared meal of gumbo, where Elijah taught her to season it with wild herbs, a quiet evening mending clothes, where she shared stories of her childhood in the north, far from the south's shadows. One evening, as rain pounded the tin roof, an unexpected turn shattered their fragile peace. Harlan Crow appeared at the door, drunk and furious, backed by two burly henchmen. "That slave's mine by rights," he snarled, shoving past Eliza. "You stole him from me, woman. Hand him over, or I'll take him by force." Elijah emerged from the back room, his eyes narrowing. The air thickened with tension, fists clenching, the scent of violence looming. Elisa stepped between them, her voice steady despite her fear. "He's no slave. He's a man, and this is his home now." Crowe laughed cruelly. "A man? Es a killer, a salvaje. And you're a fool." In that moment, Elijah could have lashed out, reclaiming his freedom through blood. But he didn't. Instead, he placed a gentle hand on Eliza's shoulder. "No more fighting," he said softly. "Not for me." The confrontation escalated, Crow's men lunged, and chaos erupted. Elijah fought defensively, disarming one with a swift move born of survival, while Eliza grabbed a nearby iron poker, swinging it to ward off the other. But it was Crow's own arrogance that undid him. He slipped on the rain-slick floor, cracking his head against the table. As he lay groaning, the henchmen fled, leaving their master defeated. The police arrived, drawn by the commotion, but Eliza's quick thinking turned the tide. "They broke in," she insisted, pointing to the splintered door. "We defended ourselves." Witnesses from the neighborhood, moved by her earlier act at the auction, corroborated her story. Crowe was hauled away, his reputation tarnished. In the aftermath, a profound realization dawned on both Eliza and Elijah. For her, it was the understanding that true selflessness wasn't just in the act of saving, but in standing together against the storm. For him, it was seeing that humanity could extend beyond color or chains, that kindness could heal wounds deeper than scars. Their bond deepened. Elijah chose to stay, not as a servant, but as a partner. Together, they transformed the shop into a haven, secretly aiding runaways on the Underground Railroad, stitching hidden maps into quilts and forging tools for escape. The emotional climax came one starlit night, months later, as they sat on the porch overlooking the river. Elijah turned to Eliza, his voice thick with emotion. "You didn't just buy me that day. You gave me back my name, my dignity." Tears welled in her eyes. "And you showed me that saving one life saves a piece of us all." In that moment, their act of compassion rippled outward. Elijah's skills helped dozens flee to freedom, while Eliza's generosity inspired her community to question the chains they all wore, seen and unseen. Years passed, and their story became legend in New Orleans, the widow and the Salvaje who built a life of quiet revolution. Elijah married Eliza, not out of obligation, but love born of mutual respect. They raised children who knew no color lines, teaching them that humanity's power lies in seeing the worth in every soul. In a world still scarred by division, their tale whispered hope, that one selfless act can ignite a chain of kindness, transforming savages into saviors, and strangers into family. And so, dear reader, remember, call them what you will, but look closer. You might just see a man, a woman, a world worth saving.